The cracks in the main opposition party appear to be widening. The Supreme Court's judgment in battle for the position of National Secretary is the latest flashpoint in a series of crises racking the party. And that's talking about the People's Democratic Party. Well, there's confusion in the PDP as the National Working Committee insists that Sunday Ude Okoye is the National Secretary, despite the Supreme Court's judgment on Friday, which appears to have reinstated Samuel Anyanwu as Secretary. Soon after the judgment, the NWC, in a statement by its National Publicity Secretary, Debo Ologunagba, asserted that the Supreme Court reaffirmed the party's official stance and resolved the controversy trailing the appointment of Okoye as the substantive National Secretary. Well, let's bring in the apex leader of the concerned PDP League, Dabio Kaibo Warmate. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsnight.
Thank you for having me.
I mean, one question. My first question is, who is the National Secretary of the People's Democratic Party as it stands today?
I'll give you a straightforward answer.
Great.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
The National Secretary of PDP as it is today is nobody else than the most distinguished senator, Samuel Anyanwu.
Okay, that clears the air. I was actually going to ask you exactly whose side are you on. So that question, that response actually clears that. So, yeah.
How did he become the National Secretary? Because as we understand it, the apex court, which is the Supreme Court, you know, reaffirmed party supremacy, that party matters should be settled by the party itself. And as we recall, the organs of the PDP have affirmed and backed Ude Okoye as the National Secretary, even before that judgment and after that judgment by the statement released by Mr. Ologunagba.
Now, let me clear the air on some certain areas because people are misunderstanding what is happening in PDP. Senator Anyanwu was the National Secretary before he went to contest election, and he did not resign. I have a letter to that effect. He did not resign because their premise, this is a letter sent to INEC, signed by the National Chairman Ambassador, His Excellency Ambassador Umaila Damagu, signed by Emeka, that is the National Secretary, signed by a Deputy National Secretary, that will act, that is proceeding on leave. So, first thing I want to clear is that it is a big lie by whoever that is saying that Samuel Anyanwu will resign as National Secretary. That is where the cross of everything.
Is that really the bone of contention?
Yes, it is the bone of contention because
hold on. Is anybody claiming that Samuel Anyanwu actually resigned?
Yes, that is the premise. With
or
which,
that the NWC, hold on, or that the NWC, the Board of Trustees, the neck of the party are saying, this is our man.
Nobody can appoint. Nobody. I state it based on the Constitution. Nobody can appoint when there is no vacancy. There must be vacancy. And that's why mischief makers came up with the rumor or narrative that Senator Anyanwu resigned before proceeding to contest for election. He went on his annual leave to contest for election. And based on section 47(5), it is may in a legal contest and constitutional contest, when you use the word may, it's discretional. It doesn't require, it's not mandatory requirement for you to resign. Okay. So that's why he did not resign. He inherited this constitution. He did not amend it. Right. Now I'm coming. The former National Secretary, National Legal Advisor came to this studio and said it was shall before. So that means it was compulsory before it was changed to may. The amenders of the Constitution know there are reasons why they change it from shall to may. He said that. And if it is may, what does it imply? That is discretional. You may resign or you may not. And they went further to claim that, according to section 48(1), that when you assume office, for crying out loud, it's so nonsensical for someone to say that there is an office called candidacy. There is no office. I'm coming. Let me learn. There is no office called candidacy. The Constitution says when you assume an office, and the office in Emeka contested for was the office of the governor of Imo State. The question I want to ask you, did he assume as the governor of Imo State? Okay, the answer is no. So he has every right to go and contest. This section is what they are confusing. So he has not assumed as he go. If he assume, we have a case. Let me cite that case. We have a case in Taraba State. The president governor of Taraba State was the state chairman. He contested, he was still the state chairman. He won the primary, he was still the state chairman. He won the general election as governor, he was still the state chairman until he was sworn in before he left that office. So it is a fallacy to say that Senator Anyanwu has occupied 2 offices, thereby, based on section 48(1), he ought not to be the national secretary. And that's why they claim that he has vacated the office. And on that premise, relied on the Enugu judgment, both the appeal and, the trial court and the lower appeal court. But let me say this, that they refused to say, which our MPS failed because I was in the court. He wasn't in the court. The CTC is not out, so he has not read it. So I'm more informed than the MPS to say. Now, let me say this. The judges, let me just land on this one. Yes, let me just land on this thought.
Very quickly,
their law justices said something. They said the lower courts improperly evaluate the evidence before them, as such declare their judgment perversive, and went further to upheld and describe the judgment. We have a minority and majority judgment at the appeal court. Yes, now they declared the minority judgment as an erudite judgment, and upheld it, and upheld the prayer of Senator Anyanwu. Let me ask you this question. If now I'm going to court, I'll go.
Very quickly. Yes. Now that the Supreme Court has ruled,
yes,
and you still have the situation where you still have to come to this studio to raise your voice
and counter your national publicity secretary.
It means a legal solution is nowhere in sight.
Yep.
That a political solution might just be the way out. Isn't that what all of this says in itself? And by the way, who exactly decides party positions within the PDP?
Fine.
Is it the NWC? Hold on. Is it the NWC? Is it the Board of Trustees? Is it the NEC?
Is the convention?
Or is it the courts that will decide?
Now, let me take you to section 47, 2, 3, and 4. That is where PDP national officers can only be elected at the convention based on section 47, 2 of our constitution. Then, if you want to remove a national officer, you will need a convention to pass a vote of no confidence. And if the vote of no confidence is carried, that national officer stands removed. It stands removed. That is the process. So that's why I'm saying that it's a fallacy for someone to say that the NWC or because there was no vacancy had been issued. So at what point? Now let me bring this to the knowledge of every member. Before now, our MPS was premising his removal of Anyanwu based on the Enugu lower court and this in appeal court. Suddenly, within 360 degree, he changed. If you watch his last statement, he did not say the lower and the appeal court. He changed it to an purported NWC resolution in 2023.
Okay, all right.
Okay, just
so
hold on.
yes.
We're almost out of time.
Yes.
You call all of this fallacy. That's those who are against your stance. But they have also called as fallacy the argument you make. Should Senator Anyanwu had won the Imo State governorship election, would this crisis even have come up in the first instance? Because they argue it's it's a situation of a man who wants to eat his cake and have it. Also, react to the 577th meeting of the NWC, which held on the 7th of November 2023 in pursuant of your constitution, which you have with you, and duly received, deliberated upon, and accepted, approved the emergence of Ude Okoye. So this was not one man who sprung up somewhere. It was your party Southeast caucus that brought him to replace someone who has gone for an election. React to those.
Thank you. Number one, let me state very clearly that the first question you're talking about. Now, there is no party. The party does not have no zone after you've been elected at the national convention, because Anyanwu was not elected by only delegates from the Southeast. It was elected by the delegates from the whole federation. So a zone cannot come and say they want to replace someone having been elected. That is number one. Now, that resolution, you see, that's why I say it's a fallacy. Right from the beginning, that resolution, where was it? Why was it not be the yardstick for calling for the removal of Anyanwu? And if there is no vacancy, how would the NWC sit and come up with a resolution? That's why I say a purported resolution. Because at that time, Anyanwu still remained the national secretary. So at what point?
Even though
I'm coming. At what point did the NWC sit and come up with that resolution? Now let me clear you further. Today as we speak, the NWC has not met. The NWC has not met. I can tell you with authority on what ground does Debo is using the name of the NWC to make such a critical statement, a very sensitive matter.
Okay,
and
so
that's why we are saying.
Finally,
yes,
before
please,
we go,
yes.
how do you solve the? I'm reminded of how do you solve the problem? How do you solve a problem like the PDP? It's remained protracted since after the 2023 election. What exactly is the way forward? So you don't continue to, be in a situation where it's costing you. You have your party members that are having issues. There's the Natasha Akpoti-Udoha situation. There's Fubara situation. There is the no governorship candidate situation in Anambra State.
The defections.
And all of that. There are defections here and there. You're being distracted. You're taking your eye off the ball as a PDP. What's the way forward?
No, the way forward is what is. We thank God that the Supreme Court has addressed this issue of the National Secretary, because that is one of the major issues that is distracting us.
But it remains unresolved.
No. It's resolved. It's what we are having in PDP is interest wrangling. And that is what we are trying to resolve. And the Supreme Court has made it easier for us, and we are trying to resolve it. But PDP is a beautiful bride. Everybody wants to be a member of PDP. Everybody wants to contest on the platform.
This way forward. What's the way forward?
Okay. The way forward, we want to urge our leaders to tame their ambition. We want to urge their leaders to accept the Supreme Court verdict, irrespective of prosy interest, irrespective of prosy we'll
have to live with that.
So that is what we want to urge them to accept the position as it is with the Supreme Court.
Comrade Dabo Ikiabo Warmate is the apex leader of the concerned PDP League, CPDPL. Thank you very much for joining us on Newsnight.
Thank you.